Rito and Mogo from Cayman Island tuned through. They are a bit late, but we thank you. Mudwito Amboikanash from California. Asante Davido Wagesha. Asante sana for tuning in. Wangari Wamurage. Thank you so much for coming. This is the Trumpet of Hope. Bunnies, thank you for the good job that you have done. And now I want to usher in Harriet. And this will be a good. Let me get to bring Harriet on the screen. I have
hello.
Very good. Hello. Good. Can you hear me? I can hear you. Can you hear me yourself?
Yes, I can.
Thank you so much. And we are going to have a beautiful time. You're going to have a good time. This is good. I want to make sure that I usher in. All right. I see. Let me see. That is very good. Wow. This is awesome. Yes. So before we proceed on, so that we make sure that everything is good, I want to karibisha kila mtu. I want to make sure that everybody is logging in. If today is your first day to tune into our program, hey, let me know. Thank you very much, Bunnies, for such a good job. Thank you very much for such a good job. I'm looking for. I think there is somebody else. I see something else here. Let me see. All right. Okay. Good. Hey, this is the Trumpet of Hope, and on the screen right now is Dr. Harriet, and Dr. Harriet is coming all the way from Baltimore, Maryland. Yes, and this is good. So welcome, and hey, say hello, and let us let us break the ice.
So hello everybody. I'm very happy to be here with you today. Thank you, Captain, for inviting me, and thank you, Bunnies, for hooking me up. So I'm just ready to hear what Captain has for us today and to answer as many questions as I can.
Thank you. Today we had a nice talk with Dr. Harriet, and we really had such a nice discussion. I got an opportunity to know her, and let me tell you, hey, if you're just coming in, either on the Trumpet of Hope YouTube or the Trumpet of Hope Facebook page or on the Captain RTV apps, this is just important. And Dr. Harriet Kamendi is coming in from a wide, huge background. Can we first of all do a brief introduction? Who is Harriet Kamendi?
From my perspective, so Harriet Kamendi is a scientist, an entrepreneur. I like to call myself a serial entrepreneur. I'm interested in all things health. And so I do not sick people, but I try to figure out why they are sick and how we can help them. So in the past, I have a graduate degree from Howard University in pharmacology. So I do drug development. I've worked in several pharmaceutical companies, and I continue to work there even today. But other than that, I like to indulge in other things such as teaching kids, community activism, and making sure that the next generation is prepared to take over where we live.
Thank you. I was looking at your your books and no your write-ups and the things that you have been doing. And I thought the best thing is, people think that people come from all the way and they fly and they just jump and they get to where they are. Let people know where you were born and where you grew up in Kenya, Harriet Park Road or that area. Let people know that you just didn't fly or jump from point A to becoming or to getting your PhD.
Okay, so that's an easy one for me. I was born in Nairobi, Kenya. My parents were Anansi Wambui Kamendi and Charles Kamendi. He's departed, but I grew up with loving, harsh parents. I got my share of beatings for all the things I ever tried. I went to Park Road Primary School. Park Road is a local school, so it's your average primary school where probably everybody else went to. I left Park Road and I moved to Pangani Girls High School. And I hated Pangani, so I transferred out of Pangani after 1 year and then went to Mary Hill High School in Thika. And from Mary Hill High School, I graduated, left Form 4 and moved to Egerton University, where I spent 4 years getting a bachelor's degree in education. From there, I was posted to teach in Moranga at Ketuke Secondary School. And when I visited the school, my heart was not in it for many reasons that we can go into if anybody wants to know. But I chose to try and pursue further education. And that's because my father had always instilled in us that who by that time had passed away, by the way, had always instilled in us that we needed to be the best that we can be and we needed to get the highest education that we could achieve. And my mother, being one who doesn't give up, wanted us to follow that dream. So she pursued it to the end and we had no choice just to pursue our dreams openly. So we had a very good support. After graduating from Egerton, I moved to the US. And in the US, as you all know, the journey is never easy starting. So I came in with an I-20 to go to a state school in Maryland called Towson University. But at Towson, I did not find my dream because I had come in with a bachelor's degree and they had no transition plan for somebody like me. And so there were two choices. I either go back or I figure a new path for myself. And fortunately for me, I met with many people along my path who helped me define a new path for myself. People who pushed me, people who threw me out of programs in order to go out and pursue what I wanted to pursue for myself. So I left Towson and stayed out for almost 9 months trying to decide what to do next. And at the end of that time, I decided, okay, I'm going to do nursing. And little did I know that somebody else decided that was not a path for me either. So I showed up at another school, Coppin State University in Baltimore again. And over there, I found a gentleman by the name Dr. Gilbert Ogonji. And that guy literally told me on day one of school, you're not going to do nursing at this school. You're going to go somewhere else. So you have 1 year to figure out where you're going. And that is what I did. With his help, I managed to leave Coppin State and join Howard University a year later. And at Howard University, again, I found another giant that took over everything for me, including financial help, and allowed me to graduate after 5 years with a PhD in pharmacology. I left Howard and went to work at George Washington University, again, through another connection. Another giant connected me to my other giant, Dr. David Mendelowitz. I worked for him for 5 years, grew my skills, grew my knowledge base. And after 5 years, left his lab and went to work for a pharmaceutical company called AstraZeneca. Over there, I found another giant that allowed me the breadth and space to learn what I needed to learn I always think to myself that I was given the opportunity to learn what I needed to learn at AstraZeneca. So I went in, I learned about doing risk assessment. 5 years later, I got laid off and I came home. I did, at home, I tried to set up a business, consulting business, and that is not easy. Finding clients, especially in an area that you have no idea how, you don't have, okay, what do I want to say there? I want to say that it was hard to find clients because I had never worked in an area outside the office that required me to know people who actually employ people like me who wanted to do consulting. So it was a hard space, a learning moment, and it was hard enough that it forced me to come back into the workforce. And over there, I stayed for a year and a half, and the situation got not too interesting, and so I left again, and I came back out into the world of consulting, where I have been for the last 3 years, and it is an interesting journey. It changes from year to year. I grow in many strengths. I have a very supportive family. My husband is excellent. I can't say enough about him. My children are also supportive, but that has been my journey to date, and I continue to pursue my interests in community activism. I do some work, consulting work. I grow my breadth of knowledge in drug development. I help develop cannabis drugs now. And I also teach people on the benefits of medical cannabis and how it can benefit their conditions. I help them identify areas where they might interfere with their drugs and areas where they can improve their health on.
Wow, that is a book that we need to write about. I have 5 questions that have come out of that, and I want to ask you. Right now, there are people who have come to the US as international students. They are listening or they are watching, and others will watch later. Sometimes the journey is not easy. As an international student, what is your advice to these people who have come here as international students to come and study? What do they do to maneuver the panya routes until they get to where you are, or even better off?
So the first thing I want to say to anybody who's out there who's starting this journey is that this country does not recognize anything that comes from any other country. It's not just Kenya, any country. So when you arrive here, you have to find the easiest path for you to get a recognizable certificate that you can use to generate income. There's no way around it. It might be through education. It might be through taking certifications. So, for example, if you are a doctor outside the country, if you are a nurse, the path is easier for you, I think. Why? Because you can actually go to the board of nursing or the board of whichever board that you have worked, your education dovetails into, and they have easy pathways for you to get what you need. But if you are like everybody else that got a bachelor's degree in education or bachelor's degree in accounting, you have to find an easy certificate that allows you to bring in your education. They don't deny your education. They just don't accept it. And so for me, when I came in, I thought I had adequate education. And so I was not interested in going back to my first year. And the first thing is you must recognize if you have a bachelor's, you have an easier path to anything. If you have no degree, you have a slightly longer path. Is it easier? Is it harder? No, I can't really tell you it's a harder path, just that it's time consuming and it has a few challenges that you must overcome. So once you identify your path, and mark you, your first path must be guided by financial stability. So when I come in, I want to know what is the quickest pathway into a job, and not just a job that pays me enough to sustain my livelihood. Because if you don't do that, I don't care who you are. If you're not receiving a check from Kenya to pay your rent, you're going to fall into a horrible place of self-pity and depression. And you don't want to go there. This country is a harsh country. So you don't want to be in a place that does not allow you to thrive. There are other issues that you can deal with if only you could thrive mentally. And so my advice always to anybody is to find the easiest path into a sustainable job.
Thank you.
For people who move here with families, you have another challenge, because you come here with small children and you put them in the school system. And the school system here is not, we assume it is good, but it is not the best. I know many parents who have invested a lot of time in Kenya for their children to become better academicians, but better in academics. And that must continue when you arrive here. If you do not continue that path, the school system is not tailored to make your child a success. The school system is just tailored for children to grow up and pass out of the system and go do something. If you want excellence in your children, you have to invest the same amount of time and money you invested before you came here.
Thank you. You spoke about connections and the giants. You mentioned Dr. Gilbert Ogonji. Earlier on, you had mentioned of another doctor you had gone to visit in Atlanta, Georgia, when you were still fresh. Would you mention the importance of connections as an immigrant, the benefits that you got from these connections?
So there's one person I like to remember, and she passed away a couple of years ago. Her name was Dr. Jerry Karango. And when I met her, not through myself, I didn't meet her randomly. It was a meeting arranged by friends who were going to visit her. And because I was new and I wanted to see the country, they took me along. And this woman literally sat me down and wanted to learn more about me in a way that nobody else had before I came in, before the time I'd been here. And Dr. Karango listened to my story. Of course, I told her I was coming from Kenya. I had a bachelor's degree and I wanted to go back to Kenya in 2 years, which is the story most of us have when we arrive. And she told me she wasn't going to tell me about the 2-year stay, but she told me that she asked me what I wanted to do. I told her many people had been telling me to do nursing. And she said, no, you don't do nursing when you come in here with a bachelor's. And she told me I needed to think beyond a bachelor's, because going back into a bachelor's was wasting time that I'd already invested 4 years before. So in her opinion, she suggested that I needed to go forward. So I needed to look for a path into the next level. It was something I had considered, but was not in my immediate future, in my immediate plans. And so just hearing her talk about it planted a seed in my mind. So I came back to Baltimore, and actually that conversation is what led me to quit Towson University, because Towson University was forcing me to take first year classes. And I felt demeaned because I thought I was beyond English 101. And so I did leave Towson, and that's when I started thinking about moving forward. But there was still the issue of finances, and that's why I had thought about nursing as a pathway forward. And so when I left Towson and went to Coppin University, where I found Dr. Ogonji, that again changed the story, because I thought that if I had a nursing degree, I could do better for myself. And the guy tells me, no, you're not going to do nursing here, because you need to be thinking about going forward. And so he reinforced the message Dr. Karango had put in my heart. And he did not just reinforce, he also helped me build a path and helped me move forward and helped me move forward and literally not look back. And that's how I ended up at Howard University. Not because I knew where it was or not because I knew what I wanted to do. And just so you know, by the way, I had no idea what pharmacology was when I showed up at Howard University. I had to ask, what is this degree and where will it take me? I had no idea what it was for. But then again, when I arrived at Howard, I found other people, giants that laid a path for me. Recognizing my naivety sometimes, but also recognizing the need to help somebody identify a path forward that they were aware I had no idea what lay ahead. But because they had been there, they wanted to put a pathway for me to step into. And I did step into it, and I didn't look back, and I have never regretted. So
that is interesting.
I opened my ears to their counsel, and I benefited.
Thank you so much. You mentioned something that is also very important about the cannabis.
Oh.
Yeah. Tell us about that, or rather, somebody has actually mentioned. And I was looking at a YouTube thing that was done by a Kenyan. I am trying to look for it so that I see if I can connect it here. There was a guy in Kenya who seems to have taken one little too many, and he was talking to an Mheshimiwa in Kiambu called Jude Jomo. And he was telling him that it is time that Kenya developed or grew cannabis, and then develop medicine and drugs for export, and we shall be able to fight poverty. And even, hey, can you mention something? These are by the way.
So you've touched on a topic that is dear to my heart, honestly. And the reason is I've spent, since 2017, I have done nothing but cannabis. I have learned the basics of cannabis. Before that, I knew about THC because in the world of pharmaceuticals, THC was a drug of addiction. And so we learned about it in terms of the harms it has for the brain. So fast forward to 2018, and President Obama signs into law the hemp law, or the farm bill that allowed growth of hemp in the United States. And a friend of mine calls me and tells me they have a project, or they need somebody to link hemp to addiction. That was my first journey into cannabis. And I told him, I don't think, other than THC, I don't think there is any good thing about cannabis. And he said, no, can you just go and look? So I went in and started, because it was supposed to be a 30-minute talk. I needed to get to know more about it. So I went in and started reading about cannabis. So there's a lot of misconception out there about cannabis. Cannabis exists as two forms, hemp and marijuana. And both of them have got medicinal properties. Hemp is just a plant that has very little THC, while marijuana is a plant that has a variable amount of THC. So you can get, you can get a marijuana variety that has 30% THC, or you can get one that has 0% THC. So when I went out there, my short foray into cannabis and addiction led me into a world that I had not discovered before. And since then, I have done a lot of comparisons for hemp. I've done arthritis, I've done skincare, I've done a lot of things in the pharmacology of cannabis and disease, health and disease. But in the process of interacting with my friend and the company and his company, I was able to learn more about the growth and processing of cannabis. And I agree, it needs to grow in Kenya. That plant has 2,200 uses. It is a sustainable plant. It clears the environment. It cleans up the environment. For example, it's been used in Chernobyl to clean up the radioactive waste from what year was that? 1998. It's also been used to feed people. The hemp plant has got protein and beneficial essential oils that are good for your health. So you can actually take the hemp seeds and eat them, and that would be enough food, even if you don't add anything to it. Animals eat it, humans eat it. The University of Pennsylvania has done a lot of research about the benefits of hemp and cow milk production. Awesome. Pig production, awesome. You can use the hemp stalks to make bricks that you can use to build the house. And these are very cheap processes. Actually, the most expensive thing to produce in that plant is the cannabis oil, the medicine itself. So a country like Kenya that wants to get into manufacturing needs a lot of raw materials for that, and is interested in improving the health of its people at a low cost. That would be a beneficial plant. This plant has the medicinal properties include the fact that it decreases inflammation in your body. Inflammation is one thing that is associated with probably every disease you can imagine. It's associated with depression, with anxiety, with what are they called? Autoimmune diseases. It is also associated with arthritis, all diseases that ail people. For people who like to run, you can use it and it will reduce your muscle pain and your knee pains. For people who are taking harsh drugs, even for people with asthma, it shuts down the system, and it is a safe compound. It doesn't have a lot of liability. It has been ingested for the last 5,000 years. Nothing was wrong with it. The people who shut it down only shut it down because they wanted tobacco to reign. We know why tobacco is bad. We know that it can get you off of tobacco addiction. I mean, there's nothing, I can talk all day about cannabis, but Kenya needs to do it.
Now, let's get to our level just a little bit. And that one is important. Let's get to our level. There was an MP who was told by somebody who thought that Kenya would develop and grow and even sell and export products from cannabis.
Yes.
But sincerely speaking, they said he is crazy. That guy was crazy. Now, cannabis, we call it fagi.
Yes.
Negua.
Yep.
Can you come to our level and tell us exactly what you mean to a Mugikuyu oe fagi ne juru fagi ne gorokagia fagi ne daimono fagi ndibataire gukorwo one kihuthirwo. In fact, mundu agika kaundu ni kuri uragia atiriri ko huthurite fagi. Are you
Okay, so a little background. Fagi. The plant itself has over 100 chemicals in it. No, let me go back. Fagi okire Africa in the 1400s. It has been with us for the last 600 years. It came with the Chinese. It arrived on the east coast of Africa, interestingly. Our climate allows it to change the characteristics of the chemical. And it gains more THC than it does other factors. So
underline THC.
Underline THC.
Nigetha wire muthikiriria utaramenya THC ni ki.
Aya. THC ring ni chemical emwe tu in that plant that makes people gugai kagatia itumaga andu mareve ta njohi. Right? But irevagia andu manginyua nyingi. Iri kare kanini ri nĩrũgama ĩtũmaga mũndũ wĩna epilepsy atige kũgĩa kĩbaba,
Yeah.
right? Karĩ kanini andũ matiguaga ruo. The problem we have nĩ atĩ bangi ĩtukanagio na ndawa ingĩ, ĩtukanagio na thigara, ĩgatukanio na cocaine na heroin, all those things cikoragwo Kenya on the streets, ĩgatukanio na kĩrĩa na betũrũ, kũgucia betũrũ. Watukania indo icio ciothe rĩ, ona ndũngĩmenya nĩkĩ gĩa kũrwaria. However, thirikari no nginya, thirikari nĩ yũĩ atĩ today in Kenya, ũmũthĩ tũraria, there are 3.2 million users documented manyuaga bangi. Mũndũ ũrenda bangi nĩ akũmĩona, koguo nĩ ĩranyuo Kenya. Ona mangĩnyita andũ manyite andũ aigana, ĩkoraga it grows wild, one, and then it also comes in through the porous borders. Ĩgeraga Somalia na ĩkagera Tanzania gũkũraga bangi Turkey. Ĩnyuagwo nĩ andũ mirioni 3 and counting already. Koguo mũndũ wa kũnyua bangi already nĩ aranyua. Kũgiria ĩhandwo tikuga atĩ andũ nĩ makwĩongerera. Tondũ andũ acio maranyua rĩ, no nĩ mamĩonaga na mamĩonaga raithi. However, kũrũgamia the economic impact of not having cannabis is higher than what we have today. Ũngĩũka ũmĩkũrie, it will lose value. Bũrũri ta Netherlands ĩtũraga, you can buy cannabis anywhere. Ũngĩingĩra restaurant nĩ ũkũgũra keki ya bangi, na ũgũre njohi ya bangi, na ũnyue. Kũu andũ arĩa manyuaga bangi tene maticenjagia. Mũndũ bataire ndawa ya kũrebia already nĩ aramĩnyua. So twambĩrĩria gũkũria, ti hĩndĩ tũkũingĩhia. That's one. Number 2, andũ arĩa manyuaga ndawa cia kũrebia, manyuaga thigara, manyuaga njohi, manyuaga ici. Tũtũ tũngĩ nĩ tũnini nginya bangi. Thigara na njohi are the biggest drugs of addiction in our country. Bangi ĩrũgamagia ona gũkũ, they are already documenting atĩ kũndũ kũrĩa kũrakũrio bangi, njohi, alcohol intake na thigara intake is going down. So it has properties that allow you to heal the brain, because it's a brain that is on fire, that is causing that need for THC. Higher. This is the other thing. Ũngĩtĩkĩra ĩkũrio, ũngĩtĩkĩra ĩkũrio ĩkũingĩha in variety, so that now we don't have ĩrĩa ĩkoragwo na THC, but we have many varieties. Andũ aingĩ manyuaga, kũrĩ andũ maranyua nĩ tondũ wa ciĩga ciao iremete kũhona, 1, na atĩ ndawa ciĩna goro, 2, na ndawa itiraruta wĩra, 3. So if you target those people, you will have kũrĩ andũ maraimwo medical benefit. The 3.2 million will continue to take. Kana nĩ tũkũhanda bangi kana tũtikũhanda, gũtirĩ kũndũ marathiĩ. Kĩrĩa tũreka nĩ kũ-deny bũrũri a chance to develop itself, to develop cheap goods, and to develop medicines that can help people. And then last but not least, what did I want to say? We have a very high population of youth that is unemployed. This plant can change their story. We are currently growing bangi in hiding right now. So if you make it legal, you're not doing anything, you're just making it like coffee. But you also increase the andũ manyuaga bangi because of hopelessness, and because they have gone to a place that is harmful, that they are trying to run away from problems. If you make it an economic activity, you will change the story for some of these people, and they can reverse, they can have their own healing out of this situation. So, whether we like it or not, cannabis is there already. We just need to allow it to get into the market so it can have its economic impact. And the last thing I want to say is, if we do not do this hemp now, turegũraga dawa from the West, we will continue to buy our drugs from the West, China and India. And that is not sustainable if we want to change our healthcare.
Now, that is deep, and I know it will take some time before some people accept. One is because of the moderation of use, and
Yes.
especially in developing countries like Kenya, if I may say, the moderation, because people have used or abused cannabis or fagi. To take it a little bit more home. The debate has become very interesting. I can see the comments. I can see the and this is something that that maybe people need to read more.
Yes.
Do you see any future, any hope for cannabis or products that are developed, using cannabis in Kenya, for example? Do you see any future?
Oh my God. They just need to say yes. And I can tell you what the karara, what are the kabunishi. And this is the problem with that. These conglomerates, Shegoko, AstraZeneca, na Pfizer. Kenya makes it legal, they are coming in. Why? Because Kenya has a huge labor force. It has a favorable climate. It has millions of innovators and people who are ready to work. Kenya is like no country in the world. The day Kenya approves that plant, we cannot catch up because there are people who are waiting to come in. Can we do this? Yes, we can. Not the decade hour. The last couple of years, that's all I've done. I've spent time making this stuff. So I know how to make it. I just need a few people who want to learn how to make it, and I'll teach them. We just need to get in line and do what we need to do for our country. So go to rato hoyaga ginyari. Tupiturute wira. Tupiturute wira. Kwena wira.
Tell me, how do you, having come from the Kenyan culture, having been brought up by very strict parents, and went to Pangani Girls and Maryhill and all the way to where you are right now with a PhD? Tell me, how do you break the cultural barrier?
Oh God, yes.
How do you break the cultural barrier?
That is not easy. I can tell you that I have friends who know I'm good as they are, because I didn't fail any class, just like they didn't fail any class. And even today, they don't think I'm in their class. These are Black Americans. They think they are better than me because I come from Africa, which is interesting. I have also been to places where they were consulting, and one particular white man once told me, I can't get any work in America. I should go back to Africa and consult there. So the prejudice is amazing, but you can't listen. I choose to hear what I want to hear. I refuse to hear what I don't want to hear. I refuse to be put down because I say I'm good enough. I say I'm good enough, and nobody's going to tell me I'm not good enough. I have come home, I've complained. My kids have had it all. My husband has had it all. And I get up and I go back again tomorrow. What I've learned, though, is that the company I work for is not mine. So I don't have a say in what goes and what doesn't go. If I want to make a change, I have to become economically independent. If I want to say no, I have to be economically independent. And that has changed the way I view the role I play in my children's life. Because if I have struggled so much and I'm a grown-up, I have shed tears so many times because of what I have faced in the workforce. I mean, I've had nigga, go back. And they can't do a calculation, they have to ask you. I've seen it all, but I choose not to dwell on the bad, because among those people who are mean, I have found some very good people. I have found people who knew I knew what I was talking about and who believed in what I was saying, and they don't even second guess me. But the bottom line is that if you have no capital, you have to sit there and listen and say yes, sir, and no, sir, and and just take what you have to take, because there's nothing you can do about that. So I always urge everybody, I urge the people who are coming behind me, that they need to build an economic base that allows you to become an investor. Because when you're investing, I can go to Kenya. I would be in Kenya right now trying to find out who can allow cannabis to be legalized. But because I don't have my own cash and capital, guess what? I just sit back and just complain and say nobody's doing anything. But if I had capital, I would be there with them. We would be arguing this out and looking at the merits and demerits of having cannabis or no cannabis, or how we can change the healthcare system. So all I want everybody to know is that if you want to be free, if you want to be independent, you have to have economic independence. And you start there. You start there. Don't think anything else. Economic independence if you want to say what happens tomorrow.
That is very interesting. We are talking to Dr. Harriet Kamendi. Dr. Harriet Kamendi comes in with such an awesome background, having started off at Pangani Girls, all the way to Mary Hill, all the way to Egerton University, and all the way to other institutions, until she became a professor, a scientist, in terms of pharmacology and toxicology, all those things that we are talking about. And when it comes to cannabis, there is something special in her. Let me dwell there for a second before I clear off that. Where do we get off the religious barrier? Because we have religious, the Christianity and religious religion believe some of these things are not Christian.
That's an interesting one, because I've had everything in the cannabis world, including people who claim cannabis is in the Bible, is in the Old Testament. It was used as an oil. I don't know how true that is, but I've had several people talk about that. But other than that, I would say that every cannabis is just like every chemical out there. And if you take any chemical, it can defile your system. You're defiling your system. But you do not take it because you want to take it. You take it because your body is asking for it. So if you're in pain, you will go out and seek Tylenol. If you're having a headache, you can go and get ibuprofen. I mean, you will take a chemical to correct what is wrong with your body. If you can take a chemical, any chemical, including food, because even food is a chemical that feeds into our souls, then you can consider this plant as another chemical or tool that is a wellness tool. I understand that there is a THC component that is critical, and we don't shy away from that, and neither do we argue about its liability. But we know, we have spent 30 years looking at this thing. We know what it can do, we know its harms, and we know how to limit the exposure from it. But we cannot condemn a whole plant. We are still growing tobacco. Nobody complains about tobacco, despite the fact that it kills millions. We are still brewing alcohol. Church also uses wine to do sacrament. And just so you know, by the way, the marijuana plant was used by in religious doctrine by Muslims. It was used by Christians alike. I think the only people who don't have a mention of cannabis is the Jews, and that was before. That's because they use different names for it. But every other historical group of people has documented use of cannabis. not just as a medicinal plant, but as a food. So every other plant that is out there is not forbidden except for this one. And this particular one is the only one that has both medical, food value, and other uses. The tobacco plant, all we get is nicotine that gets people addicted and sick, and it kills them, it gives them cancer, it gives them, you name it. And we still allow it to grow. We grow corn, even though it gives us alcohol, and busa. So we are condemning one plant because of the views of a minority of people who thought they wanted nicotine to rule over THC.
Awesome.
And we have taken it and embraced it, and we just need to get ourselves out of that.
Thank you so much. That is important, and I hope that somebody is listening. And I know there will be so many things that will come out of this. It is important to follow up. If you need to learn more about the benefits of, or rather, what you can do or how you can join the industry in terms of cannabis, then you have somebody you can ask. It is important to know that we have Kenyans who have gone to school and they have done research and they have gone all the way to becoming professors in this. And one of them is Dr. Harriet Kamendi. Let me give an opportunity now to come to the issues of racial disparities, and especially when it comes to education. We are just having the Black Lives Matter demonstrations, and the funeral of George Floyd is actually tomorrow here in Houston. Let us get deeper into these issues. I know you are a professional in that area. You fight for the rights of the children from the immigrants community. Let us break these issues one by one. If you have a question, I see we have people like Maggie and Duta somewhere behind the scenes somewhere. And if you have a question, remember that our lines are open. We'll be able to open up for questions. Wajikwa Mwadhi, thanks, Dr. Kamendi. Totally agree with you. One of my research papers in undergrad was medical marijuana, potential therapeutic role in epilepsy. Margaret Kamoyo, Oiga, Dr. Kamendi, I like this debate. Shikowa Mwangipanis karaoke, I want to learn too. Let me know when the class starts. I also want to learn, by the way. So let me know when you start teaching people. We have some students already. Steve Daniels is in Iowa. And then Nyam Nyam's first year. You. Thank you. Shikomwangi says, hi, Harriet Kamendi. Banis, you're very interesting. Thank you so much. Steve Daniels, Anastasia from Dubai. Thank you very much. Kivuri, Sarah. That issue will be a challenge for sure. Victoria Moams, Mary Mwangi, one of my biggest fans and my supporter. He says, my concern is the moderation of use. We already have alcohol problems. How are we going to convince the users need for a moderation? There are so many other things that we are going to look. But now, let us talk about the racial disparities and the issues of the George Floyd murder and the protests. What is your take?
We cannot stand by and watch. That's my tagline. We cannot stand by and watch. George Floyd is Black, African American, but he epitomizes Black, and we are all Black. We cannot stand by and watch because two reasons. One, I believe that we have not had it easy in this country because we are very good. No, we have had it easy in this country because people have spent the last 400 years trying to get out of chokeholds and getting to where they are today. They have cleared the path that we have then come in here and found an easy system that allows us to go to school anywhere we choose, to get any job we want. And we fail to recognize the contribution of the African American to that success. So we cannot stand by and watch. That's number one. Number two, our children, like it or not, are not Kenyans. They are Black American. So when you hear that a black kid has been shot somewhere, that could have been your son, it could have been your husband, it could have been your cousin, your brother. You cannot afford to be complacent. We need to get involved. We need to get into these discussions, because when our children go into school, they are not viewed as black kids. They're not viewed as African kids. Nobody cares about Africanness. They only look at them and see black people. Most teachers are white. I don't know about where you guys are, but in my community, and I can tell you, our schools are 60 to 70% black. Our teachers are 60 to 70% white.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot tell the difference between Wanjiro Jenga and Shakwanda. No, they're both black and they're sitting there and they look the same, they speak the same.
Mm-hmm.
So they are condemned in the same way. So we have to stand up and we have to speak out and we have to look back and we have to give advice and grow these children. These black American kids, most of us, when these kids turn 18, they come into the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of looking down on them, we need to turn around and help them climb these ladders of success, because we know how to. We cannot be complacent. They are not who they are because they want to be. They are here because of systemic racism. Systemic racism in that it takes a lot to bring a child out of, for us, say people who know Baltimore, it takes a lot to take a kid out of Baltimore City and make them into a functioning human being, because they have no schools. These kids raise themselves up. Their parents, some of them are junkies. Some of the parents work 24 hours just to put a meal on the table. Mm-hmm. So these kids are raising themselves up. So when they find you where they find you, don't put your nose up and say they are black. No, they are black Americans. No, you turn around and give a helping hand, because when you give a helping hand, the more black Americans, the more black people that are economically independent, that we have that are economically independent, the more we will be able to stand up and have a voice in this country. And the more we shun each other, the blacks see us as different, we see them as different, the more we will continue to be divided by this country, and the more we will continue to complain, and our kids will continue to get shot until all we do is wait for another shooting, take to the streets. We cannot be complacent, guys. We need to act. We need to act. We need to be part of the story.
Thank you. After we finish up with the protests, because eventually the protests will end, what do you want us as a black community to learn, or rather to do, so that we can put a stop to this systemic racism, all the way from school to where we are as a society?
Let us spread our wings. We may not be able to do anything for a parent. We may not be able to do anything for people who have already aged out of the system. But for these ones that are coming in, hold their hand and just guide them and lead them and encourage them. Say something. You don't have to make noise at them, but you need to tell them how to save their money, how to use it wisely, how to raise their children. Some of them come with babies. When you look around, that's your child, really. It could be your child. So if you just take this child and inform and allow her and tell her how to live her life, mm-hmm. and how to be a better person than she already is right at that moment. Not that I am better, no, but for her to be the best version of herself and to walk in the shoes she'd like to walk in. Hold their hands. They have nowhere. Honestly, I've seen my daughter's friends come in here and I talk to them, and those children raise themselves up. Mm-hmm. I look at them and I fear for my kids, because if I spend so much time investing in them, and those children, they are high schoolers and they have no one investing in them, and then I shun them, So the one friendly place they can come in, I agree, some of them don't come in with very good behaviors, but they are kids. They are kids. When you tell them what you can and cannot take, some of them will conform and they will come back. I talk to them. I encourage them. If they want to go to see schools, I take them. I pick them up from school and I drop them off at their homes, because otherwise they'd be taking the bus or walking home. I've met with a child walking from home. I can't even imagine how he walked. In the morning, he was running to school. We stopped and reversed the car and picked him up to take him to school. And he was very thankful. Mm-hmm. And the challenges they face are real, not because they want to be where they are. But imagine that you lived near Madare and you see these two kids that struggle because they have nobody to help them. You'd help them. That's what you're seeing. We demonize a whole society. And I just feel like we need to stop and just do our part to help where we can. But don't go home and talk about them if you're not doing anything for them. Give them food. Give them a ride. You don't have to give them money. Show them where the resources are. Take one to a community college. Show them how to get a certificate. Talk to them. Mm-hmm. Some of them just don't know. They've never known anybody that could tell them something different than what they already know. So I feel that this country we adopted has a lot of bad things that we can help correct. And rather than spend time thinking we are better than African Americans, we can change our story. Part of us, not part of us. We were never there, but those guys were brought here because they were sold by their tribesmen. Maybe this reparation they keep seeking, we can contribute to it. But always remember that when the Black race is economically impactful, we will go further and nobody will tell us what we can do. But until then, we will face racism and barriers at work. Just like our kids will face racism and barriers in schools. So let us step in, look back, and do what we must do. Participate in teachers associations, because if you're not there, nobody is talking for you. If you're not there when they're dividing the cake, you will not eat it. They'll eat it alone. And white people are making decisions for our kids because we are not there. Please.
We are so busy working doubles and thinking that we have projects back at home. We have a 24-hour cycle of work. So sometimes we only have time to go and pick up the children from school and drop them in the morning.
God has given us these babies for 18 years. 18 years. Surely we can wait 18 years to start investing in Kenya. What use is it when you have millions of shillings and no one to leave it to? We need to change how we do everything. Our children need us in order to become the next leaders of this country. So we have kids who can drive themselves. There are kids who are very good. They do everything. They don't even demand anything from you. But 3/4 of them, they need hand holding. They need kamushamio on their behinds because they don't know what they're doing. They need us. So we have to get behind them and we have to go ahead of them. We have to do everything we can for these children in order for them to inherit that wealth we are seeking to create. Otherwise, they will grow up and we will have another generation of Kenyans who are wasting their father's wealth. And I don't think anybody wants that. I think that I don't want that. I want my kids to take what I have and run and become better than I ever could be.
You were a straight A student all the way to...
No.
Eh?
No, I was never a straight A student. Mm-hmm. In fact, I had to sit some of my little friends down and tell them, an A doesn't take you to a PhD, because I never was a straight A student.
Talk about that.
I did. So I'm not a bookworm. I've never been a bookworm. I read. I read a lot, but I'm not a bookworm. I don't like to read text. I mean, all those equations, they're not interesting. I read a lot of novels, but I don't like to read books. So growing up, I liked to read novels, but not my books. So I could do, as long as I got a passing grade, I was okay. And as long as I could please my father, which I never managed to, by the way, I was okay. But my dad lit a fire under my feet. You are not coming home. You are not coming home if you had a D. So all I had to do was make sure didn't have a D and I didn't have a C. If I got a B, I thought I had done very well. He didn't think so, but I patted myself on my back. My mom, on the other hand, believed if you put all your effort in, whatever you brought home was good enough. So we had a nice balance of, because my dad would beat you up and my mom would pamper you and tell you it's okay. Next time you do better. And so I've lived my life making sure I got exactly what I needed to do the next thing.
To an extent of becoming a professor now and impacting so many lives. I can see so many messages right here. That
Yes.
everywhere Dr. Harriet Kamendi goes, she impacts positively in the lives of the kids. Let's talk about our children and how they will stamp their authority in school. Somebody just mentioned the benefits of the historically Black colleges and universities. And would you encourage parents to take their children, the Black children, to those schools, HBCU, over the other colleges?
I have two things to say about HBCUs. Two things. Mm-hmm. One, they teach you what it means to be Black in America. But the second thing is they do not give it to you. They do not hand it to you. I've worked in a white school, and the kind of education I saw handed there was not anything I had experienced in this country. I have to start by saying Towson, my first school, was a white school. Coppin was a Black school. Howard is the largest Black university in this country. And I encourage people to send their kids to African American schools because, and not just any, by the way, not all of them have got the, okay. I want to put two things out there. There is something called alumni. A school should have a strong alumni base in order for them to be able to transfer kids out of the school into the workforce. There are many great schools out there. The first thing you need to know is that not every Black school has a strong alumni base. A school like Howard University is the largest university and accepts many students, and they have a primary mission in life, which is to advance Black people, period. If you are an excellent student in high school with an SAT score starting from 1400 all the way up to 1600, you will get a full scholarship at Howard. And all you have to do when you go in is keep your A's and B's, and you will be given a full ride throughout. They also have, because they are the biggest Black school, they also have a very high transfer rate from work. Hello?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Oh, they have a very transfer rate of students from class to the workforce. Mm-hmm. And that's because they have a huge alumni base. It took me a while to figure this out. Other schools you may go to, other Black schools, do not have that kind of base. So before you send your child to a Black school, determine what kind of, go visit the school and ask questions. Where do these kids go to? What is your employment transfer rate from class to the workforce? You need to know that. Because when our kids are finishing, we need to keep only one thing in mind. We don't have the luxury of our kids coming back home. So we must be thinking about how they are going to get their next job, so that they can be able to start building wealth for themselves. So if you're going to leave college and go look for a job, that's not a good university. So do I approve of black schools? Yes. Just any black school? No. In Maryland, I know two. Howard University is in DC, but it's just like Maryland. And then the second thing is the second school is Morgan State University. I don't know how many people from Morgan State there are online today, but that's an excellent school that puts Black kids in the workforce. Other than that, I have nothing bad to say about a Black school that put me out there, and I love what I do.
Thank you. This is that is very deep. Let's look at the issue of choices in terms of what to study. In the latest report in Kenya today, back in Kenya, children are opting to go for skill-based courses as compared to the 4-year degrees at the university. And here we have challenges because some of us came to school and we made choices as per the host who hosted us. If he or she wanted us to go and drive a truck, okay, we went to drive trucks. If he or she was succeeding in the nursing field, we all went there. Tell us about choices. And this one is deep. It may take a little bit longer than I expect.
Okay, so that it's actually a very good question. My husband tells me all the time, the role of education in our lives is to give us a firm economic base. If a degree is not going to translate into money when you're done, quit, go home. That's the simple truth. And I say that because he puts it so succinctly, that if a degree does not translate into immediate job, quit. Now, the reason I don't want to speculate about the kids in Kenya, but since 1996, and I can go way before that. 1996 was the last time the universities posted teachers to any school in the country. Is it 96? Maybe 96, 97, around 98, around that time. They stopped posting agriculture education teachers, and then they stopped posting B.Ed. And I know we like to criticize our country, Kenya, about lack of jobs, but let's be honest for a minute. If people get into the workforce in their early 20s and they don't leave until they are 55, there are people leaving the workforce, but they are never enough to absorb the ones who are coming into the workforce. So we have had a huge amount of time where we have kids who are very highly skilled and very highly qualified, because I believe Kenya has a good education system and nobody can tell me otherwise. I don't even listen. And those kids have gotten degrees, and then they come out and they have to figure out what to do with those degrees. So for the first time, I think that we are seeing a change in the country's economic situation, where skilled trades are coming into play because the country is trying to grow its manufacturing workforce. And a degree is not going to help you get any skill, especially if you've been called to go do a bachelor's in arts or bachelor's in science. You just become a generalist, and then you have to come out and start thinking about how to repurpose what you have. If education is supposed to be a source of economic to provide a source of economic stability, then you must think, even us here in the US, we must start thinking differently. And that, by thinking differently, is to make sure that whatever our kids are taking for their first degree ends up in the workforce. If your child wants to be a doctor, please send them to a degree that takes them into a clinical degree, if they want to do nursing, let them go do it. If they want to be lab technologists, let them go do it. If they want to do radiology, let them go do it. But please, for heaven's sake, don't tell them to go do biology. Because they will come out at the end of 4 years, they will get a job which probably pays them $24,000, which you might as well not have gone to college because you can earn $24,000 somewhere else. So if you cannot make a decent salary that is going to give you $50,000 to $60,000 a year, please stop that degree and sit at home and think very carefully about your next steps. Go to a community college. Stop wasting your money in a degree that is not going to benefit you. It's time for us to step in as parents. If we want our children to become economically stable, and if we want to change this story, the US keeps saying that children of immigrants are not smart. We need to start taking charge of our children's future. We don't have to tell them what to do. We just have to listen. Where do you want to go, child? I want to be a doctor. Okay. What do you do when you want to be a doctor? If you don't know what they need to do, please find somebody. Please call somebody. Please call me. I'll help you chart the path. And because if your child can leave a bachelor's degree or even an AA degree, there's nothing wrong with a community college. If you go to a community college, take one of those certificates that pay you $30 an hour. This education does not benefit us initially because we are paying somebody for it. It benefits the person who's receiving a check. And that money is coming from your pocket, your hard-earned sweat. I can't tell you how many times I've been told by parents, oh, my child went into school, started a degree, they got to their third year, did their third year, and then they changed their major. That is a loss. Money is lost, and your child cannot leave school, whether you like it or not. You have to make sure that child gets to the end. If you had sat down in the beginning just to chart at a path, because sometimes we send these kids and they really don't know what they're going to find over there. I didn't know what I was going to find. I told you my story. My story was defined by the people I met there. And I just happened to meet people who were awesome. So my journey was predefined for me very nicely by so many. So if I could not have done it, and I was a grown woman with a degree and I couldn't figure out this system, why do we expect our 18-year-old to walk in and figure out their future? No, let us participate. Let us be part and parcel of this, identifying what the child wants. Let's not let them go to third year to find out they don't like what they're doing. Let us also know that if you wish to change what you're doing, sometimes it is easier to just hold on for a little bit longer and finish that, whatever you started, and then change it at a higher level. It's okay. It's okay to feel pain a little bit more. But unless we are having these discussions, we can't change that story. We have to participate and we have to own our children's journey. We cannot assume that the American school system is good. By the way, it's not the best in the world. We did more. I think my parents did more for me in Kenya than this system does for our kids. So let us not sit and wait. We cannot sit and wait. We have to, mothers, fathers, please get up. Do not sleep a wink until you understand this system. When a child goes to high school, you go with them. Do not let those teachers tell your children what to do. You are the one who knows your child. You know your child's strengths. You know what they can do and what they cannot do. And when they can't do and they say they want to do, you can also be there to make sure. Please, let us. I learned math on Khan Academy. If my husband is not home, my daughter wants help in math. By the way, she knows more math than me by now. But if she asks me a question, Khan Academy, I go to Khan Academy and ask the same question. Then I study. As I study, I tell her, did you do this? Did you do this? Because I don't know. So Khan is guiding me. Khan Academy, and actually YouTube is my best teacher. I ask YouTube, do you know how to calculate, how to do 2 + 2? YouTube tells me. to do 2 plus 2, you need to count 2 sticks on one side and then put a plus sign and count 2 sides. Now count all of them. I repeat what YouTube is telling me, but I don't tell my daughter to wait. I can't tell her that because tomorrow she won't find. The teacher has 100 kids. Which kid is she going to help?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which kid is she going to help? Parents, please. It's time. It's time. It's time to claim this country for us, to claim this country for our children, and more so for our children.
That is deep. I hope that we are tuning in and we are listening. This is vital information. It is important to learn this from somebody else because sometimes we go as far as our mentors have gone. The people who changed the destiny of Dr. Harriet Kamendi, the people she met, some of them told her, hell no, you are not going to do biology in my, you told me about somebody who told you cannot do that here. And she was the head of that department. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That was Dr. Gilbert Ogonji. He passed away a couple of years ago. And he passed away before I said thank you. No, I did say thank you, but I wanted to go. He had always told me to go back to Coppin and say something and talk to his students. But I lived outside the state for a while. So, but Dr. Ogonji just listened to me and what I wanted to do. And he told me, you're not doing nursing here. If you want to do nursing, look for another school. Over here, you'll do biology. And that's it. Yeah. Then, but I also did listen to him because after that, he just didn't tell me don't do this. He told me don't do this, do this, and he sent me to so many places. He exposed me to a side I had never seen. I like to share everything that I did with this guy and so many others after me. I share with people so that they can know that. Even though you don't know what the journey looks like ahead. And my mom is always a good one. She tells me, hey, you know where you're going? Me, I've never been there. My mom, I call my mom the best, what do I call her? The best, what are they called? The people who know how to meet people. Mm-hmm. I'm forgetting the word. Yeah, she knows how to connect people. If you're looking for something, you go to her, she can send you to somebody somewhere that you didn't know existed. And I always used to tell her I want to be like her when I grew up. And I don't even think I can match what she does. But that she says, I'll pray for you that where you want to go, you will find an open door. Because I can't take you there. Yeah, so she doesn't tell you don't go. You can't get there. No, she says you go. And when you call her and you didn't find somebody, you call her and you cry and she says, don't worry, go again tomorrow. You'll find some. So
thank you. That's deep. Before I read the text messages, remember we are privileged to have one very special person. I am looking at, or rather, I'm speaking to Dr. Harriet Kamendi. She's a research consultant with a Candy group in Maryland. And she has worked as a drug development consultant and other things that she has done. When you speak of the skills that she has, I won't be able to mention them because it is a book that I can read from now to the time that we finish. But it is important to listen to these bright minds. If you listen to her now or even thereafter, I please our Kenyan community, our immigrant community, our Black kids, let us learn to listen to people who are better than us. Let us not think that we know it all. Let us not think that it is too late. She mentioned something about when to quit. A degree that you think is not good, don't quit in that grade, that year. Finish and keep it as a package that you can use. Talk about loans and the student loans and the money that we spend in school, and give the students, now students, okay, give my give my listeners a picture of what you did.
Okay, so I have to say that I was very lucky on so many fronts. I spent the weekend with a friend of mine who we remembered gave me $1,000 to go. Is it $1,000 or $2,000 to go pay for school, Coppin State, so that I could go in. And I was asking him if I paid him back. And of course, I told him if I didn't pay you back, because he keeps saying, oh, no, don't worry about it. I said, if I didn't pay you back, I'm going to write you a check one of these fine days. So I borrowed to go to Coppin State, my first class. I also borrowed to go to Howard University. And Coppin, I borrowed, and then I worked the rest off. But I'll tell you, by the time I finished Coppin, I owed money. And they actually had to take my taxes like 2 times in a row in order to pay themselves, because it was a state-owned school. And God works in mysterious ways, because when I finished Coppin, normally one school must get the transcripts from another school in order to admit you. Howard University never asked for my transcript. In the 5 years I was there, they accepted my word that I graduated from Coppin State. That is not normal. But I used to hope that they're not going to ask me, because I didn't have the money to pay Coppin to get my transcript. Anyway, so I left Coppin. I started with a small loan from a friend. Then I went to Coppin. I finished Coppin with a school debt. So I didn't finish paying the school debt, and I left Coppin and I went to Howard. When I arrived at Howard, I only had an $800 check I had been given by a program I had participated in the summer. So I decided, I went to the department that I was admitted into, and I asked them where my scholarship was, because I thought that if you are admitted to graduate school, you should get money, right? That wasn't the case. That's the thing with Black schools, that they sometimes don't have enough money to give everybody. So they told me they don't have money for me. And I sat there and thought, I have an admission letter to graduate school. And they're telling me, I decided to go to work. I used to work in Baltimore at a nursing home called Stella Maris. Stella Maris was great because you could work as many hours as you wanted. They didn't have limits. They were a big facility and a lot of work, and they needed a lot of workers. So I didn't even call to schedule myself. I went to the office and took a shift, every shift they could give me. And I earned $1,000 in 2 weeks. So with $1,000 and my $800 check, I went back to, I needed a place to stay. I didn't have a place to stay. So I got into my car and drove from Baltimore to Washington, D.C. I knocked on a friend of mine's door and I told him, I have been admitted to Howard University, but I have no place to stay. And he said, Keigere. I slept on his sofa for 3 months. At the time I was going, I thought I was actually going to be able to get another place to work like Stella Maris, where I could go to work when I wanted to go anytime. Yeah. But that was not the case. There wasn't anything like that in DC. And I didn't have time to look. But anyway, this same guy who gave me a place to stay, his name is Edward. If Edward is online, thank you very much. I never forget my giants. Edward wrote me a check for another check for $1,000. So now I had $2,800. But because the way we used to do it in Coppin is we'd go and beg the registrar to register you with half the money. So I went to Howard and decided I was going to pull the same thing off. And I went to the registrar's office and I sat in there and I told her, you have to register me with this money. I left a little bit for myself. So I told him, I told her, you have to register me because I'm going to bring you the rest of the money next week. So I think she was just tired. So she registered me and she gave me the sticker. We used to get stickers back then. And that was it. Once you get the sticker, you don't need anything else. You don't even need to pay anything else because they can't kick you out of class. You've already been in halfway. They'll only need the money if you want to register again next semester. So I went to class, I did my classes. Then I decided, because I'm not going to get this money, I'm exiting Howard at the end of the fall semester, and I will exit in style with all A's. So I went to work. I can't find work. All I did was read. I read. That was my every waking moment. I had my book. I had 3 big books that I used to carry around everywhere I went. And I studied. And at the end of the semester, I was rewarded with A's. And so now, money is money, pesa onge, no money, good grades. I'm exiting Howard with flying colors. So I decided I'm going away. If I get money, I'll come back in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's December. My husband was visiting from Kenya. He was my boyfriend then. So he told me on one morning, a week after classes had started, he asked me, "Kota do maga?" I said, digo shokai. Todo my money has run out. And I don't have money to go back for this semester. And he said, "Did you tell them?" I said, "No." He said, "Why do I have to tell them? I'll just come back in the fall." He said, "No, you don't do that. You write a note to your department chair and explain yourself. And you tell him what you're doing and what you will do." So I did exactly that. And in 5 minutes, I got a reply in my mailbox. And the department chair tells me, "Harriet, I hope you're in class when you're writing this email, because after that class, I want you to come and see me." So it was 8:55. Class was ending at 9. I'm still in the dorm in my pajamas, and I need to be in his office in 5 minutes. Oh, I didn't even shower. I didn't brush teeth. I just took my stuff, put on my jeans, and ran like a crazy woman all the way to his office. And so I walk in huffing. He says, "Hey, you ran from class?" I say, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, do you have a green card?" I say, "Yeah, dude, we don't collect them on the trees, man." "No, I'm an international student." He goes, that is going to make this very difficult." So me, I'm like what difficult? I told you I'm not coming back. He goes, "I'm going to send you to somebody." So he collects my transcripts from the secretary, my grade sheets, because I couldn't get a transcript because I still owed money. And he sent me to the graduate school, to the wrong office. And I took my papers there and I waited. Me thinking I've already gotten money. I went to class. The whole of that week I was in class studying. Then I go back. He calls me back to his office and goes, "They haven't called you?" I said, "No, they haven't called me." He said, "Can you go back? Where did I send you?" And I told him the name of the woman he sent me to. And he said, you need to go back and get those papers. That's the wrong woman. That one will get us in trouble." So I ran to her office, got back my papers, and he sent me to the right woman. The right woman, I go in and she looks at me and says, "Where have you been? I've been waiting for you for a week." I was sent to the wrong office. She said, "I hope you came with everything." I said, "Yeah." She took my file, put it next to her, and told me, "Sit," and started moving money around. She put money in my account for the spring semester. It refused to clear me for class. So she put money for a whole year and told me, "Go to the bazaar and go to the administration office, and they're going to write you a check for 2,500. The money I had paid at the beginning. Oh my God. I cried and cried. I hugged her. I've never been so happy. My life was just like, oh, wow. So I did go, I collected my check. And from that point, my department chair told me, "All you need are A's and B's, and I will pay this education for you." So I finished Howard University with no debt. That hero of mine is the late Dr. Robert Taylor. He passed away last year. And that man is a man I shed tears for a lot, because he is there are many people who have impacted my life, but he is the last piece of the brick, or the last brick on my path. And after that, who am I not to turn around and tell everybody you can do it? I'll do it till I die. So that journey always teaches me that, or I tell people that you cannot start this journey by saying, I don't have money. You can say you don't have money with an I-20 or with a college admission document, or even if you're starting a business. Have you registered the company? Have you done everything that requires to be done to get going?
Mm-hmm.
If you have done so,
Mm-hmm.
and you sit here and you tell somebody, hey, I can't go to college because I have money, but I was admitted. That I was admitted makes a whole lot of difference, and it opens another door for you. I have seen one of my friends wanted to go to medical school, but she had no money. That never stopped her from applying. Her name was, what was her name? She's from the Caribbean. And we were in the same class, and she would always say, I came here to go to medical school, but I have no money, and I'll go to medical school. So she got herself admitted into the medical school. And that the entire time we used to ask her, Sioban, how are you going to medical school? And she would tell us, I don't know, but I'll be admitted. If I'm admitted, I'll go home with a letter and I'll say I had been admitted to medical school. And she did. She got admitted to Howard University Medical School. Do you know the girl? Because she had a letter, this woman wrote her a check for the entire 4 years at Howard University. To say I haven't seen miracles is a lie. But what I'm saying is, if you want to do something, don't sit in the house and say, I can't go to school because I don't have money. I believe chance favors the prepared. If an opportunity knocks, it will only be captured by the person who's ready to roll. So if money knocks on the door, not everybody will go to university. Only the person who's holding an admission document is going. So prepare yourself, stay ready all the time. If you want to go to school, go and get that I-20. Go and get that admission letter. Sit with it in the house and then say, I don't have money to go to school. The journey of 1,000 miles, that's a Chinese saying, starts with one step. Get up, go to the school you want to go to, get admitted. If they say whether you have money, you say yes. The power of words. Don't worry about whether you have money or not. Just say, yes, I have money, because you're rich in your soul. And trust me, if you show up with that letter and you say, I am here and all I don't have is money, you will get it. You will get the money. So show up. If you don't show up, showing up is half the battle won. I tell my kids that. I tell everybody that can listen that. Showing up, you have won 50%. If you didn't go to class, you have 0%. If you sit in that class, no teacher will give you 0. Ever. I don't give my students 0 when they're in my class. And if they're in my class, they have 50%, and then I can get them to get 70%. I can help them get that other 20%. They will get a C in my class. They will never lose because they showed up. If you don't come, you don't get anything. So chance will favor the prepared. Your son wants to go to college, take him to the admission office. Get him the documents he needs. Don't say, I don't have money. No. Get him the documents he needs. If you sit in that counselor's office and say, I don't have money, government gives anybody making $50,000, you can get government money, but you have to act. 1, you have to have been admitted to a program, and 2, you have to have applied on time. But you will never ever lack if you prepare yourself. So don't sit on the sidelines. Don't wonder how it's done. Just get up and start moving. I like to quote Martin Luther because he has one quote. He says, if you can run, you need to run. If you can't run, then you need to walk. If you can't walk, crawl. If you can't crawl, can you wiggle in one space? Because even then you're still moving slightly. And if you can't wiggle, no, if you can't crawl, please wiggle, but don't sit still. Don't ever sit still.
Wow. Wow. I hope that my listeners are writing something down. I have taken so much tonight that I cannot just sit down and watch. The message is so clear. Thank you so much for the people who are keeping us company in the back room. Thank you so much. I see Maggie and Susan. I have not met them, but they are in the back room taking care of business and keeping us company. Thank you so much. And I want us to speak about something before we start winding up and reading the messages. Barney's mentioned something that I was in my mind about the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And there's a debate to make them mandatory. What is your take, and should the parents concentrate in this STEM program in schools?
A few years ago, I would have said STEM, yes. Today, I like to say, if a child is a STEM child, run with it. If a child is not a STEM child, don't force them. Find out what their passion is. Create a path that is a win-win for you and the child. Mostly for the child, because that's the one who has to live with this going forward. So if a child doesn't, if you know your child can do math, they are just lazy, by all means, pinya yeye kabisa. If you know your child is not a mathematician, please do not put that child in a situation that makes them become depressed because they don't like what they do, or they quit what they do because they were doing it for you. No. Take what your child likes and build around it. There are many professions that are outside STEM that people can excel in. The goal is to make sure that there is economic ability when that child is done with school.
That is important. That's good. Wow. Let me read a few messages before we wind up. If you have a question for Dr. Harriet Kamendi, we'll be able to give the numbers and how you can be able to reach her, specifically to discuss the things that we are discussing. It is coming at a time that we as immigrants need to hear these most. We need to hear these, and we are hearing it from a professional. We are hearing it from one of us. And that idea of saying now these are the black Americans and we are Kenyan immigrants or something like that, I think it is coming to an end, because our children are born here. Our children, the biggest percentage of our children are born here, and we need to associate them with here. She has also mentioned about spending our times with them and going to school to know what is affecting them and what they need to know from us as parents, not just building apartments and buying plots in Nairobi, and all your children are born here. And you expect that they will go to Nyarugombo or they'll go to Muranga and they say, hey, this is your inheritance. Hiyo nyumba itaanguka na hakuna mtu ambaye atakuwa nayo. Anyway, let me read the messages. Let me not get worked up. Now, where do I start? There are so many messages here. Okay.
Can I answer one for you?
Yes, please. I'm trying to look at them and I'm not able to.
Yeah, so has the U.S. Food and Drug Administration approved cannabis? Yes, it has approved. Actually, there are 3 approvals on cannabis. Mm-hmm. THC is used for pain as well as for appetite. But then Cannabidiol, which is the other major constituent, has been approved for treating epilepsy.
All right. Betty Wanjiro, thank you, Kamendi, for Dr. Kamendi, for enlightening us. A great debate. Well put. Thank you, Anastasia. Dr. Jen Kagia from Atlanta says, great. That's deep. what good is it to have millions with no one to live to? Wow, that is deep. Samuel Karaoke says, great and inspiring. Ezekiel Minor, that's true. Our own kids needs us most. Mwariwa Munene from Minnesota, thank you so much. This is true. Zipporah Elikana, this is true. The system is not great, especially for Black people. And what can we do to make us great for the system? If the system is not great for us, what can we do so that we can be great ourselves as Black people, and the system will come looking for us because they need us, for we have what they don't have. And that is important. I guess we have learned something from Masika Juju Alice Shafa James Muranyi Tuogeni Kush P tuned, and then Margaret Kamuyo says, Dr. Kamendi, I applaud you for your continued effort in reaching to our Kenyan children and directing them to the right career choices. Vital information. Kush P says, true. I did a career that I had no idea what it meant, and that is Kush. And then somebody else, Karibu, Steve Daniels. There's a question that Steve Daniels asked, and I would like to look at it. He's in Iowa. What are we going to tell our nephews who have been abusing cannabis or marijuana by the end of this show?
So if you want to get them off cannabis, which is THC mostly, you need to get them on cannabidiol. A mix of cannabidiol and THC knocks out the ability of cannabis to intoxicate. And I wanted to answer somebody else, actually, that now that you mentioned that, cannabidiol can get people off of alcoholism. It decreases the amount of alcohol you take in. It makes alcohol taste bad. I have a couple of, it's actually not news. It's actually dating back all the way to 1997 that the first documented study showed, not a study actually, just a doctor who documented putting his patients on cannabis to get them off of harder drugs. So he got people off of opioids, he got people off of cocaine, he got people off of methamphetamine, he got people off of THC. Right now, we are trying to do clinical trials to get people who are addicted to opioids off of opioids by using cannabidiol. So cannabidiol is the major constituent of hemp. So when you think cannabis, you have to remember there are two distinct plants. When you ingest hemp-based products, you're ingesting products that don't have THC. When you ingest marijuana, you don't know what you're ingesting unless you follow through and do the testing. And even though it is, right now, the reason marijuana is so, you have to get a medical card in order to get it is because they have no control over how much THC a plant will have. And nobody is following up to figure that out. On the other side, though, hemp cannot be sold. Hemp cannot be sold if it has more than 0.3% THC. So hemp-based products are safe. Yes, cannabis can help with diabetes. I want to say something about some major diseases. Most of them are diseases that result from inflammation. What causes inflammation? A host of things. Environmental factors, say like pollution, stress, and sickness. Bacterial diseases or viral diseases. Think COVID-19 right now, yeah? Mm-hmm. So COVID-19 is attacking people and changing people's bodies because it comes in as a virus, you get pneumonia from it, but it also, when people are done, some of them are getting strokes. Some of them are getting, they're calling them COVID toes. Some of them are getting depressed. There is a host of diseases people are suffering from post-COVID-19. So viruses have been associated with disease forever. They've been associated with cancer. I'll recommend a very good book called The Emperor of All Maladies for people who like to read. Every cancer in there can be traced back to a virus. So viruses change the way our bodies function. What results is inflammation. When you have inflammation, it can impact your brain. It can impact, it's associated with addiction. It's associated with Parkinson's. It's associated with Alzheimer's. It's not that it's a dirty drug. It is that it's shutting down inflammation in all these pathways. And inflammation is linked to all those diseases. So it's your immune system that is overacting and destroying your body, beginning to destroy your body. It destroys your liver, so your liver is unable to control your blood sugar. That means that you have insulin, but it's not working. So there are a lot of things associated with inflammation that cause disease, major depressive disorder. I can't tell you how many people who have anxiety that have managed to get back to normal lives after taking cannabidiol. I know somebody who has IBS that takes it and they have relief. Pain, I have tons of patients who are taking it right now. Parkinson's, there's still anecdotal evidence. So there's a lot of things that this plant can do for people. So for somebody who is on THC and you would like to get them off of the marijuana, you can recommend cannabidiol. It takes away the craving for the drug and does not replace it with anything. Amazing plant.
Wow.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other question that is out there? I am trying to look at the messages and the inboxes. Wanjiko Mwadhi is very excited, and she says that she's following you on LinkedIn. Are you on LinkedIn?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Maybe we can be able to post your all your tags here. Bernice, you can be able to post all these tags so that we can get them for Professor Harriet, so that people who would want to learn more. It will be important. Now, as we wind up, what are your punchlines for the community, the Kenyan parents, the migrant community, the young men and women who will listen to this and who would like to listen to this thereafter? Because it will be on YouTube, it will be on Facebook, and I know people will follow up on this, and I know people will share this with their friends. What are your punches?
I really hope that what you take away from this conversation that we have had today is two key things. One is show up, and two is participate. Let us not be complacent, and let us not think we are too good to help another soul. If we were in Kenya, we would probably be hosting hordes of relatives in our houses to help them along in their journey to life. Now that you're not that close to Kenya and you cannot do much for Kenya, help the ones that are here. If you can just turn around and touch one soul, you will have touched so many lives. I always think about I forgot to talk about one of my biggest giants, and I love her to death. Her name is Dr. Martha Davila. Dr. Davila was my advisor in graduate school. But that's not why I think she's great. A couple of years ago, she adopted a young Black girl. She got her from the hospital when she was 1 day old, and took her home. She's a Hispanic woman who's married to a white guy. And they are very good. They have one kid together, and the girl is awesome. But then they adopted this little girl, and I remember thinking that so before I even finish that story, let me tell you what happened to that girl. She adopted the girl, and the girl would grow up into a very beautiful young girl, and she was taken back to her family, the family that she had come from. And I remember she was so distraught and so devastated about it. And I kept thinking it was unfair because she had loved this girl unconditionally. But that one day I was visiting her and sitting with her, and she's talking about this girl, and I told her, Dr. Davila, do you know you changed a whole family? with that girl, one girl. She had brothers and sisters, and they were living with family also. But she had just gotten the window to touch this girl. But this girl is growing up in a, she went back to her family, but she still keeps her. Every so often she comes to visit. When she comes to visit, she still remembers this is mommy and daddy, and she loves them dearly, even though she goes to her other family and she's also loved there too. But this woman has touched this girl in a way that impacts her entire family going forward. And that one act is good enough. So even you, wherever you go to work and you see this Black American girl and she's you work with her and you just tell her a few things. Take her as your daughter. Tell her, share with her. Take her as your sister. Share with her. Tell her what you do and show her, even if you need to take her, drive her to the school that she'll go to get a certificate, to get a few more dollars. That will change a whole community because they go back and give. I have another friend who adopted a little boy, and this friend of mine, she's crazy. I call her crazy. She has a son, and then she adopted an African American boy. And this boy has a family, another family, but he lives with her. Do you know that boy attended Duke University and now works in Silicon Valley? That boy would not have had a chance if this girl had not picked him up. She took him to one of the best Ivy League universities. She paid for it. He had a partial scholarship. She paid the other amount. She treated him as a son. And one day I asked her, Anita, do you know you've changed this boy's life and his family? Because he goes back to visit his family. He gives his family. He pays for his brother's education. He does things for his family. So one child, you don't have to do many, but give back to one child. This country gives us a lot every single day. Don't assume that you are entitled to everything you walk into the US and get. Do not assume that. Please recognize the people who have made it possible for us to earn this money and do these jobs. These Black Americans we look down on, the ones who live in the inner city. They live there, yes, but they do not deserve to live there. So if you can help get one out, just by sharing and being kind, let's not call them akata and everything else we call them. Let's help out. Let's share in the burden. They are Black like us. And when those wazungu see us, they don't see any difference. They see them. They see us. They just think we are a bit better, but we are not really better. We just benefit from a system that has continuously oppressed them. So let us share. Let us give back. As for our motherland, our children are the ones who are going to turn Kenya around. So build them up over here as much as you can. Our time may not allow us to do much for Kenya, but these children we are raising are going to do it for us. So we need to help them to learn, to teach them to be responsible, to make sure they achieve maximum benefit from the country they live in order for them to be able to return and do what they need to do for their continent. So show up, participate. Do not be quiet. Do not let a teacher tell you what your child can do. I'm sure you know your child better than anybody else. You know your child can do 1, 2, 3. Do not let a teacher tell you who your child is. Never, ever, ever do that. You don't have to condone bad behavior from children, but you don't have to let teachers put them down either.